I wanted to do a couple of things. I started, working with just FL Digi and just decoding RTTY, and then I got into some of the contest macros and how they work. And then I went down to the clubhouse and was fooling around with a 7300, and I saw that the 7300 will natively work RTTY. So I put some slides together for that. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit of fish out of the water with FL Digi because I haven't gone through anywhere near what you guys have in the Digi-Net. So if I stumble, please feel free to correct me. And if I have questions, I'll ask. So I figured I'd start with the rules. I'm not going to go through the rules in a lot of detail, but the main thing that I was interested in is this right here: is what's the standard exchange? Because I wanted to be able to see if I could program that into a macro. So here's the rules, and the times are basically the thing that I had to pay attention to is it begins at 1800 hours on the Saturday that of the contest, which incidentally is the next Tech Saturday. It's Tech Saturday in January, and it's kind of fortuitous because that morning Chris is going to be doing a session as a Tech Saturday session on the oscilloscope that's in the HF room. And so if people are down for that and they're hanging around a little bit after lunch, this thing starts at 2 o'clock, and you could run it on the radio down at the clubhouse. So here's the rules if you're interested. They're obviously on the ARRL website, and go grab them if you're really serious about running this contest. So I wanted to be able to show what RTTY sounds like, and obviously not having anybody operating RTTY, I had to go out online and search for RTTY sound. So that's exactly what I did, and I pulled up 3 of them. This is Audacity, and by the way, I don't know whether Carl is here. He's a big audio guy. I'd love to see a session done on Audacity. The only thing I've ever done with Audacity is to open a WAV file or an OGG file and pipe it out over an audio device into a decoder and then decode something. So, for example, when the ISS was transmitting pictures, I went out to the SatNog site, which records all of the telemetry as an OGG file, which is a lossless audio file. I downloaded them, I dumped them into Audacity, and then I piped the playback into a virtual audio cable and piped it into MMTV, which is the TV decoder, and that's how I was able to get the pictures from the ISS that were recorded by the SatNog station. And I did that over and over and over and over again for about a dozen pictures, but it actually worked. So, I mean, that's the only thing I've ever used this for, but obviously you can do all sorts of other really cool stuff with this. And when we were down at Tech Saturday on last Saturday, Carl was showing us his audio station, which is phenomenal. And it would just be kind of cool to find out, all of what you can do with this tool, because, audio is part of what we do, especially when you're doing digital signal processing. So if anybody's really good at this, or if you know somebody who's really good at it, or maybe, Chris and I can dig up somebody who's good at it, and we'll do another session on it, just learning how to use this tool.
Actually, John, I've used it extensively myself in manipulating MP3 files, and compiling singles into an album format, and decoding from one format to another. So I have used Audacity quite extensively to edit audio, to join audio, to make stereo out of 2 separate mono tracks, and it's quite useful.
Oh, I'm sure it is. So we'll plan a session for that at some point. What I'm going to do with this is I grab just a single RTTY signal, and I think this will work. I'm going to play it back through my speakers so my mic picks it up so you can hear what one RTTY signal sounds like. So here we go.
We had we had it and then we lost it, John.
You had it and then lost it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
the
started,
first couple seconds played.
and then it disappeared.
It was there, but very weak.
You could always transmit either on the repeater or on a simplex frequency. I'm ready to transmit if needed.
Yeah, I'm not going to use a radio on this. If I can, let's see, can I pump it out to anything else? Sound mapper. None of this is going to go.
Okay, I also have it loaded on this computer. Let's see if I can.
I could hear it. It's just real low.
Oh, that's stored. What the
You
heck?
could set up FL Digi to send it out over your local microphone.
Yeah, I'm that would take longer than I want to spend right now, Al, but that's a good idea. I mean, you can tell this is just two tones. There's no complex modulation or anything. It's just alternating between two tones. So it's really pretty basic.
Hey, John, just feed it to your line in.
And it's my line in.
Yeah.
Okay, playback device. Tell me what you want to see.
Let's see what's up there. What inputs do you have? I can barely read that.
Well, I got a sound mapper speakers, line 2, digital, the Dell high, the def, the 991, which is not turned on, and the other virtual audio key. I don't think I've got anything that will dump it straight to line in, and I don't want to waste
All
everybody's.
right, no problem.
I might be able to do mine. Let me see if mine. Can you hear mine?
No.
Oh,
I heard an initial burst, you know, it's just like, "Brr."
yeah, that was the, all right, I'll shut it off.
This is that's probably my mic cutting out background noise or something like that. I'm guessing that Zoom is optimized for human voice audio and would minimize something else. Obviously, you got to know what it sounds like to be able to decode it. I spent about a half hour down at the clubhouse the other day trying to decode something with that wasn't ready. So that's that's why it didn't work, John. It had been so long since I heard what it sounded like that I would think I was trying to decode probably FT8 or something like that, which I should know, but I didn't. In any case, I'm sure everybody knows how to set up the audio on in FL Digi, so I won't go through that. But I've basically got that set up to a virtual audio cable for line 2. And if I clear, how do I clear this? Clear this, and if I play it back, then hopefully you'll see how it decodes. And you can see the waterfall here, and the fact that I'm not clicked over that waterfall, I think is why this is not decoding properly, but this showed up here. Gary, that's correct, isn't it? Right? What's going to show up here is what's selected in your particular waterfall. I think that's right. I'm going to try it again. So let's clear this, and I'm going to play it back. And that's where the tones are. So I'm going to go here. And now it's decoding that particular band. So when there are multiple audio streams, which I'll show you in a second, you're going to see a whole bunch of different stuff coming down here, and it's going to decode in the yellow window what you've got selected. So let me do that. I'll play back. This is a contest, and let's see what that looks like. Again, clear and clear and play. So you can see it's decoding a bunch of garbage in some areas and not in some other areas. If I click on this, that automatically moved the window over to where that audio stream was. If I click here, it'll move the window down to where that audio stream is. And I guess, again, I think that's probably true with every mode, right? Okay, if you've got multiple signals coming in any other mode, I know it happens with CW. You get multiple streams coming in.
PSK31's another.
Okay, yeah, so it's basic. I'll play this again. And then I've got one other stream that I downloaded, so you can see, a whole bunch of things. And here, if I hit click in the audio stream, it'll go up to which of these lines it is. And if this were hooked up to a radio, this would be an actual frequency. Okay, so this would give you 14 dot something, 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 which would be the frequency on 20 meters that the center of, I guess, what the center of the carrier would be here. So as simple as it gets, that's what decoding is. So I mean, I could quit here, except that there's a couple of other things that I actually figured out. The other thing, the thing that I thought would be interesting is how do you automatically respond to this? So if I go back to here, this is what your response is going to be. You're going to give the other station a signal report. And I also figured out how to do a sequence. Okay, it's not part of this, but I also figured out how to do a sequence. And so perhaps Gary will be proud of me. I actually listened to his session and figured out how to program a macro. So the first thing that I found in here is in Googling around, I found that there's a configuration for contests. So if you go in here and you look at this, you can pick which contest you're participating in. And so there's a RTTY roundup for that. And it looks like if I pick this, it looks like it would capture the incoming text, but I wasn't able to figure out what it does with that. But text capture order, when you select a contest, suggests to me that it knows what the incoming exchange is going to be, and it'll capture it somewhere. But I don't know what to do with that or where that goes. So if anybody knows that, please let me know. The part that I did see is if you're using a sequence number, which we're not using in this contest, but I wanted to figure it out because some of the other contests might. So basically, if you have to give a serial number, this is where you could start it. How many digits do you want? Where do you start it from? Use leading zeros, and here you could reset it. So that is that's how you would set up a contest. This is the way I set up the macro to respond in the contest. So call is going to be whatever is up here, and in one of the videos I saw, it looks like I could go and like copy the call here or double click on the call here. Oops, I can't find it. Let me play it back again. That's not the one that I want.
I assume everybody on here knows that RTTY stands for radio teletype, and it was originally used with mechanical machines that printed out on paper.
They were pretty noisy too, weren't they, Al?
Oh God, yeah.
Clackety, clackety, clack.
Yeah.
Some younger hands probably would not even realize that's what RTTY stands for.
So that did work. So I just double clicked on YO3CBZ, and that came up in the call window here. Right. So I didn't have to type that in. It knows who I want to send this to. So my macro then here is whatever the call is. So that should send YO3CBZ 599 because you always send it 599. And then the CNTR is the contest counter. So that sends the sequence number of which QSO number this is. And then my state sends whatever my state is, which is here in the setup. Gary, did you go over this stuff in this type of configuration in your session?
Well, we did. We didn't, I mean, we went over very simple, where the commands were, the list of commands on the right side. But we weren't specific with, any kind of operating mode. So we didn't cover RTTY. We just covered assembling a macro, where to find the commands, how to get them over with the arrow, the green arrow, and kind of stuff. Right.
Right. So, but I mean, so MYST, you know what my state is and where you set my state in configuration. And then whenever you use MYST.
Right. Yeah. Your name, your call letters, and
all that kind of stuff.
All that stuff. Right.
Yeah. So the only thing that might be new is the CNTR, which is I just had it here, contest counter. Right here, contest counter. So we're going into transmit. We're going to call whatever call is here, 599-599, and we're going to send the contest counter twice, and then we're sending our state. We're flicking back to receive, and then increments the contest counter, which you got to know to do that. Otherwise, you're going to send the same damn thing every time. So if I'm right, and I close this, and I press this button, and I clear this, it should send the YO3CVZ and the report 599, and it's 003 because I tested this twice before. So if you wanted to automate your operating, you do that. You don't have to type in anything. You basically click on the incoming call like I did, and then you press that button and you're done. Now, again, as I note here, the sequence number is not part of the exchange in this contest, but in some other contest, it might be. So I wanted to figure that out just because I wanted to figure that out. So that way you could basically operate, without having to do any work. It's not quite as easy as FT8. You're still going to have to do a little bit of work, and you still got to deal with this kind of garbage. But if you do your macros right, you shouldn't have to do that much work. So that's.
Hey, I don't know if you can hear this or not, but
I got you, John.
I'm actually listening to a TTY signal. But you're probably right. The codec used won't get the high frequencies.
Yeah, it's interesting because as soon as you move those earphones up, it went away, which it sounds like the same thing that happened to me. So I think you're right. The audio codec's probably blowing it away.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. How about now?
Yeah, same thing happened.
Kind of there. You probably have to mix it with some white noise.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Whatever that secret was.
Yeah, well, see what I'm on a session with remote ham radio using Flex software, and I just put the cursor on the signal, and you can, I put the rig in RTTY and put the cursor on the signal, and it's that easy to hear it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's all I did in FL Digi. If anybody have any questions about that, because the next thing I'm going to look at is how to run the 7300 in RTTY mode. Okay, so let me is that visible on your screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, kids. I don't know how the widescreen goes. So 7300 will natively decode RTTY, which is kind of interesting. The first thing you got to do is you got to put the mode in RTTY mode, because if you don't put the mode in RTTY mode, anything after that won't happen. All right. So I basically grabbed this off of a YouTube video. I actually did this while I was down at the clubhouse on Saturday, but all of these screenshots are off of a YouTube video as to how this stuff works. So, he starts out in USB mode, and he pushes the RTTY button, And when you push the RTTY button, the decode button shows up on the menu. If I remember right, if you're in single sideband mode, that doesn't show up. And that's what drove me crazy for the first few minutes, because it says push the decode button and there's no decode button. Well, you got to be in RTTY mode for that. So that's why I put the first slide in there that said, okay, you've got to push the decode button. And when you do that, this whole bottom of this screen starts decoding RTTY. And you can see where he's sitting right on a frequency here. And these two lines are where you got to tune to, because again, RTTY's just a two, hold my fingers up, I don't know if you can see them or not. It's just two tones. It's none of this quadrature amplitude modulation stuff that's part of these more complicated things, just two little tones. And so you tune the thing so that the your yellow bar from the signal and the peaks from the signal are within these things, and then it'll be decoding that. So that's how you can decode. The hold button will stop the screen. Okay, so if you needed to copy down a call sign or something like that, you can hold it, then it'll stop scrolling. And you can see even this thing this is garbage. All right, this is garbage. You know, it can't tell whether something's a letter or not. It's interesting in that I think that FT8 knows what type of field, what type of characters are legitimate in a particular field. So for example, it knows that a question mark isn't ever going to be part of a call sign. So he knows that that's going to be wrong. That's part of what I think that the smarts of one of those more advanced modes is. But here, RTTY, it doesn't know anything. So, you know, it could decode, you know, what it thinks is a call sign and have a dollar sign in the middle of it. And if that's what it thinks it is, that's what it's going to put on the screen. So that's what hold does. Clear, if you hold it down, it will clear the screen. And then it's got transmit memories. So you can actually, by pressing the button, you can have a QSO without having a computer hooked up to it. So the way that works is there are this bunch of RTTY memories. And if you hold down the TX button, you get these memories. And if you hold down one of those buttons, like, or you push edit or something like that, to tell you, did I not show you how to do that? Oh, I should have showed you how to do that. It basically opens up the button, and you can type in your call sign, the exchange, and stuff like that. And you're basically programming the button to transmit whatever you want to transmit as part of the contest exchange. So in his example here, he programmed one of the buttons to do CQ versus, you know, from KJ4YZI, and he programmed this. This is the standard one. This is apparently the brag button. So you could choose that button and press it. That's pretty. This is the expand button. That's what I was trying to show here. This basically took this. It gets rid of the waterfall and gives you a bigger screen in here. So it expands this up, it expands this up, and it takes away the waterfall that was here. So you can do that if you want, or you could not do that if you don't want. So so that's kind of neat. I mean, if you wanted to go down and not even have a computer, apparently you could work a contest with one of these things by itself. So that's all I've got. I didn't think this was going to be very complicated. The FL Digi part of it is really simple. If you've done any other, you know, digital modes, which I know all you guys have, the only thing that might be new is programming the macro buttons for the contest and knowing how these radios work. I looked in my 991 article manual, and my 991 will not do any of what the 7300 does. So, you know, your radio might do this, or your radio might not do this. So that's all I've got, guys. Any questions or thoughts, or anything you want to add that would be helpful?
I would imagine it gets pretty messy with, a ton of signals, on top of each other. I'm sure it gets quite hard to, to decode. Some of I don't know whether the 7300 has a filter. I would assume it possibly has a filter optimized for, whatever it is, 200, what is it, 170 or 200 hertz, or is it less than that? 45. There's several different RTTYs, but 45 baud and something else. But
Yeah, there's let me go down here.
Looks like 50 and
45,
75.
50, and these are here. I tried these when I was trying to decode something that wasn't a RTTY sync, just to see if it possibly would work.
I think they use 45 as the standard.
Yeah, 45 is the standard. I just grabbed this overlapping RTTY signal. So this looks, I didn't have this one before. This is a bunch of different signals. So let me clear this and start it. All down in the lower part of here. It's actually not that many different signals. So it's not as bad as the contest. So this was the one that was actually the worst. Yeah, down here, down here, down here, down here, down here. If I could play it back and you could hear it, and you're going to have, garbage in here. And some of it's real. So, any other questions from anybody?
I did notice something. I did a little reading while there was little sidebar was going on. It looks like the first radio teletype message was sent in 1849, and it was across a wire between Philadelphia and New York. And it was, I believe, it looks like the system was designed it was baud dot by a guy named Emil Baud dot, which is a 5-bit code.
Yeah, he was a friend of mine. I was made back then. No.
Yeah, you're not that old.
Yeah.
I'll be 80 on the 27th of this month.
Yeah, that doesn't take you to the 1800s.
When I was born, the Dead Sea was only sick.
So I did notice, and the reason why I found that out is I was reading the Wikipedia article, which is pretty interesting. And I noticed that there's all these different types of shifts. So is there a specific shift that they're using for this contest? Because it looks like, there's shifts of 170 hertz, 85 hertz.
The standard mic is 170 hertz.
170 hertz.
And that would be what the contest is in?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I also noticed that when we're using FL Digi, everything's kind of centered around 1500 hertz, but it looks like that the mark and space are up around 2 kilohertz. So does it make sense to set the mark and space in FL Digi to that same setting so that when you tune, it kind of follows through to being dead on?
Standard RTTY uses 2125 as one tone and 2295 as the second tone. There's 170 hertz between the two. That's where the 170 hertz shift comes from.
So if you're operating an HF rig, but you're doing it through audio frequency shift keying, do you want to make sure that in FL Digi you move your red bars up to where around that is?
You want to set your pass band so that those two frequencies will come through it.
Okay. So just disregard 1500 hertz in this case.
Yeah, that's too low.
Okay.
Depending on the width of your pass band.
Okay.
A point I was going to make, and I don't know if I missed this in an earlier but I came back about 5 of 8. But even though RTTY is generated by the same program that generates FT8 right now, the robustness of a RTTY signal is nowhere near what you have with FT8. Did you mention that, John?
Yeah, basically, I mean,
right.
all you're doing is sending two tones. There's no error correction, there's no redundancy.
And there's no computer processing to
Right.
pull this signal out of the noise like you have in FT8.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to be successful in RTTY, especially in a RTTY contest, well, from the clubhouse, you would expect to do pretty good because we've got the beam, we've got the amplifier. To be successful from home on in a RTTY contest, you're going to need about the same thing. Otherwise, you're going to get swamped. So it's not like, I just wanted to emphasize, it's not like FT8 in the weak signal capability at all.
Right. It's got no smarts to it at all. I mean, even as I recall, FT8, part of the reason FT8 is so regimented is that the encoding decoding process knows, for example, that there's never a question mark in the call letters. So it knows that only certain characters can appear in certain fields. And that's part of the encoding and decoding, that if you ended up with a $sign as a third character in a call sign, it's going to throw the packet out.
Yeah, they also have synchronized, everybody's got synchronized clocks.
The FT8 is synchronized, and this is not synchronized.
Makes it very powerful.
Right. So all this is doing is it's listening to a couple of tones, and it's trying to figure out what that corresponds to, and you'll get garbage. So it's a harder mode to work, which of course, some
it's
people
really
like the
closest to CW. In fact, if you listen to a TTY signal, you'll hear Morse code.
It sounds like real fast Morse code.
You hear the call sign, and it's definitely Morse. You could recognize it as that being Morse code. It's just there's a second tone which you ignore. You only listen to the one that has the code in it. Actually, you hear them both, but it's the same signal level as CW. So your expectations should be about that of CW. But CW is something where you have to set and listen to the signals and find them.
Yeah, I mean,
There's spots too. There's actually a spot system specifically for TTY.
Yeah, CW, you got to do all the decoding in your head. Here you've got a little bit of decoding being done by the computer.
Well, all the decoding is done by the computer.
Another thing to remember is there's really no limit to how long you can be in a TTY QSO or
Right.
CW.
Right, and there's no limit to the content either. You can have an actual QSO, whereas in FT8, and I won't say you can't, but that's not the typical way of operating it.
Well, in RTTY, you're generating everything yourself from the keyboard or from your computer.
Right.
There's no format, so to speak, to your transmission at all.
Yeah, I mean, my only difference was that in CW, you have to take the idea that a dot dash is an A. Your mind has to do that, whereas in RTTY, the computer will do that. It will
yeah.
A. That's the only difference.
Well, that's what I meant about the computer doing the decoding.
Yeah, your head has to do all the decoding in CW. It doesn't quite have to do that in RTTY.
What's the speed? Is there a speed range? How fast does it operate?
Chris, 45 words a minute, is it?
It varies.
It's the 45 baud. Now that's it's a very fixed rate. That's where the 45 baud comes from. That's the speed.
And
that defines the speed.
Bits per second. There's a difference between baud and bits per second.
Yes, there is.
Baud is characters per second. Bits per second is just the raw bits. Depends on how many bits it takes to make a character.
Right. That's what I thought.
And in this one, it's 5 bits, I think, in RTTY.
Yeah.
Well, the code is 5 bits. Yeah, each character is 5 bits long.
Mm-hmm.
So with the 40,
don't some characters require 2 characters where there's like a shift to be?
Well,
able
yeah,
to...
that's how they do with 5 bits. 5 bits, you can get 32 characters. So in order to get all the letters and the numbers, one of the characters is a shift. So if you send a shift, then it sends you to a completely different set of decoding rules for that second set. So that's how
Okay.
you can get
And there's no
numbers.
lowercase.
And no, it's just uppercase.
So it's a great chat mode, unlike FT8, where you're just going to send a couple of words and then, you have a QSO.
Right.
So, but with RTTY, if you want to sit there and chat for a half an hour.
There's no content limitations on what you can send.
Right.
Is something like PSK 31, that's more robust than this, right? That's got some error correction in it.
Yes.
And PSK took the place of FSK.
Okay, which kind of took the place of RTTY.
Well, yeah,
in terms of being it's more robust, so to be easier to work.
Right.
And I don't know in what way it's more robust. That's for somebody else that knows more than I do.
But RTTY ran in the beginning. It ran on FSK in 1980. It switched over to the Navy, switched over to PSK.
Okay.
From FSK, and the big advantage of PSK was, of course, its phase shift theme. So you run multiple broadcasts on one frequency. We had 4 broadcasts running on one single PSK frequency.
Okay.
That blew everybody's mind.
Yeah, right.
That's similar to
multiple broadcasts on one frequency.
That's similar to how TV is transmitted, where there be multiple channels, quadrature modulation, they call it.
Right.
Well, and it's like VARA, where if you start going faster, it will just throw in multiple sets of data, I think, that have different phase shifts.
Right.
I could tell you this. I was on the Enterprise in the 60s, the nuclear powered aircraft carrier, the first one. And if you went into the radio room, it was the radio room on most any ship at that time. All you saw was people operating CW. All the messages they transmitted were CW. But on the Enterprise, of course, we also had single sideband. Okay, but the radio operators, I don't think they use single sideband. I don't know exactly what they use their communications for. But even back then, we could track 100 or so aircraft with one radar and see ships out to like 300 miles. So it was sort of sophisticated, but you got to remember those old movies. Well, I don't know. It used to be we watched newsreels and stuff like that, and you see the teletype sitting there clicking away. They weren't using radio, not normally. It was just simply telephone lines.
Well, we'll have to get down to the Battleship New Jersey and watch the teletype machines. They still have working teletype machines on the battleship.
Okay. Anybody else?
Two questions and then a comment. Is this is being recorded, this Zoom meeting? Is there anywhere I can watch it later on online or on?
Yes, sir. In the next couple of days, it will show up on the Gloucester County Amateur Radio Club's YouTube channel. John will process the recording tomorrow. Probably I'll get it downloaded probably tomorrow morning. It'll become available. I'll get it over to John, and then he'll process it and get it up on our YouTube channel.
And Chris, I put all my contact details in the chat.
I got it ready. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for connecting, and all you guys. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
We've got next week is the second session of I'm drawing a blank of WinLink, right?
WinLink.
Yeah.
WinLink,
and the
Vera, and Mike will be covering
website.
that. Yeah, it'll be Mike.
Yeah, Mike's doing it, and the link is already on the website.
That's correct. The link is on the website.
So
And in the PDF.
in the PDF on the website. So okay, we'll see you all then. Thanks a lot, everybody.
John, I'll get you this video tomorrow morning.
Thank
Great,
you.
thanks, Chris.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night, all.
Right.
Right.
Good night.